Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 109, which is called The Steam Ninja Scrolls, Potato Chips, and the Giant Boulder. I think the title kind of tells you everything you need to know about this episode. We knew from the preview last time out, Choji was going to be in this episode, and that would be, I suppose, the way to get a slightly different perspective on Asuma for Mirai. And that's exactly how the episode played out. They arrived at this place, they're going to these different hot springs, of course, because it's basically Kakashi and Guy's vacation. They now have Tatsumi with them, I think is her name. And basically they arrive at this place, it's the secret hot springs, but when they arrive there, there's a huge boulder that's fallen onto the hot spring, and no one can move it. Like, it's massive, the boulder. So I thought visually they got across just the sheer size. It's obviously this absurd thing that like a giant boulder that big, that's one solid thing, happened to land just on the hot spring, but that's what the episode's about. So the only way to move it is to get someone along the lines of a Choji to be able to move it. And so he arrives, Kakashi called him, but when he arrives, he's hungry because he hasn't had potato chips in like 30 minutes. So, we get a sequence of Mirai and Tatsumi making potato chips, and the main thing here is that this is where the conversation about Asuma comes up, and you get they actually focus a little bit on the king analogy that was made between Asuma and Shikamaru primarily, but it's been kind of prevalent with some other characters here, and they're kind of bringing it up for Mirai in this episode. Obviously, we know, if you're a kind of veteran viewer or reader of the manga, that the answer to this is that the king isn't the Hokage, the king is the next generation. That's who you put your life on the line to protect, is the next generation. So the idea is obviously that, Asuma put himself on the line, died protecting Mirai effectively, and I think that is going to be a pretty effective moment, I think, when it comes out, and Mirai gaining that understanding. And I like that they brought it up here. Choji, I don't think is ever like the greatest, character. He's definitely one of the more one-note characters of our kind of main group, in that it's all about food all the time with him. So the potato chips thing is here all over it. But I do like that there was at least a little bit of a character moment here of just addressing the fact that Choji was always the kind of least confident member of that team, and it was actually a kind of character trait of Asuma's, is that he wasn't always the most confident. And they bring up the idea that his smoking was often sort of a kind of shield type thing to get across the fact that he was sort of shy. And then in the end realizing that, Mirai is actually somewhat similar to Asuma, and she's learning along the way through all these interactions with characters that, she thinks she's just like her mother, but that's because she doesn't know her father. And then all these people are saying, you look like him, you have all these specific traits like him. She's, I think, actually honestly getting behind that. And the main thing with this episode, again, was that they were getting across the idea, do only what you can at a specific point. So there's no need, I suppose, worrying about every single scenario. Just do what you can in the moment, and it sets up the idea that when Choji is ready to go, finally, he goes, full super expansion jutsu. Eventually he goes butterfly mode, which is always cool to see. That's always Choji's set piece jutsu. But he does need the help of everyone else. Like, so Mirai goes in, she's the first one to step up and get a kind of lever action going with a big log. Then everyone else joins in, and they eventually do move it. And that's the episode. It was just moving this boulder, and it was really just all about the couple of nice Mirai moments, learning little bits and pieces about Asuma, and just, I suppose, the uniqueness of having, Choji as a focus character within an episode. There was a couple of other nice little things of like Kakashi actually drinks something in this episode, and of course they do the typical thing where they never show Kakashi, taking down his mask, even though we know that there's like another mask under there, and we've seen his face at this point. They still, put the effort in to actually hide his face anytime there's a scenario that comes up where it would seem like he just reveals his face, in that it's meant to be something that barely anyone knows what his face actually looks like. So that's a fun little kind of gimmick kind of joke that they had going on. Other than that, that was really the episode. Like, what was it terrible? I don't think so. I think these episodes are fun. I like that there is actually like an arc going on between them all. But it doesn't mean that each episode is particularly strong by itself. In that it very much feels like there's maybe half an episode's worth of content, but they have to really stretch it into a full 22 minutes. Like I said, this was literally just Choji arrives, is hungry, they feed him, he finally is ready to go, moves to Boulder with the help of everyone. Great, we're on our way, and then a little bit of Asuma talk along the way. They very much stretch things out with a lot of sequences to make it a full episode, and I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but it's like, yeah, this arc probably could have been shortened down, but the setup for next week I think is actually very good. I think that final scene in the hot spring when they finally get to go in there with Mirai and Tatsumi was actually very interesting in that I was wondering what the reveal was going to be. She's going to reveal some sort of a secret here, but it's nothing too crazy. It's not really like, oh, she was hiding something. It's just she didn't tell the full truth, and that, okay, she wants to go on a hot spring tour, but she hasn't told them that the main reason for that is she wants to go to this hot spring where you can, I suppose, communicate with people who have died, and that's the resurrection hot spring. And now all of a sudden the idea is that Tatsumi wants to see her mother, but Mirai now might get her hopes up for finally being able to have some sort of a communication with her father. And how does she deal with that? How does Tatsumi deal with that? Is it just a legend or what? Because we know there are, like, what was it? Dawn has that kind of ghost power type thing. It obviously doesn't really have that much to do with like being able to revive people necessarily, but there's been things along the way like that. I don't really know what direction exactly they're going to take with this, in that, like, will they have some sort of magical hot spring and she speaks to Asuma, or will it just be, no, this is where a character will give her like the deepest insight into Asuma, because of course they have to get to the king reveal, and that I suppose he did everything he did to save her, that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely, as I said, the strength of this arc overall, but also this episode, is Mirai. Choji was at least fun to have around, and I like that. I like that we're getting that kind of fun back and forth of just getting a little bit of a kind of dynamic with everyone along the way. I wonder, will we get Ino at some point in the arc or what? But we'll have to wait and see. I assume at the very least that she'll go back home and she'll have another scene with her mother, Kurenai, and we can resolve things pretty nicely here. And along the way, I suppose the idea is that she's gained some understanding about the better control over the chakra blades, just what her father was like, how to, I suppose, better act on missions, because she's getting little bits of advice from Kakashi, from Guy, Tenten, Choji along the way. So there is some decent stuff going on here that's definitely good. So yeah, that's basically everything I want to talk about with this one. So yeah, that's my review for episode 109 of Boruto. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. Where do you think the arc is going to go going forward? What are your thoughts on the arc overall? But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.